I'll make this really quick. I need your help. Now, I've been carnivore now for almost 40 months, and I'm going to share my story with you after this short introduction. But before I do that, I'd really like to ask for your help in sharing your carnivore story. I'd love to have you on the channel to share your carnivore story. And here's how it's helpful. When people share their carnivore story, not only does it help get the word out there, but also it acts as a method of motivating people to stay on track and stick with carnivore. If carnivores out there have a resource that they can turn to each day to listen to someone new's carnivore story, it helps to keep them on track. It helps to keep them motivated. And all you need to do is shoot me an email to realzerocarb@gmail.com and I'll get back to you. I'll arrange a time with you that works for you and we'll share your carnivore story. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you, and here's my carnivore story. October 18 was a normal day, but somewhere between 10:30 p.m. and 6 a.m. the next day, I nearly died. Now, I promise I'll get back to this story in a moment, but before I do, I have a confession to make. I used to make my wife very, very angry. And I'm going to tell you why. When we first moved in together, we would come home from work and we'd be making dinner or watching a movie, and she would turn to me and say, "I had this problem at work today." Now, I'm the kind of person, when someone comes to me with a problem, I mentally drop everything and instantly go into solution mode. So my wife would turn to me and say, "I had this problem at work today." I would think about it for a second, and then I would say, "You should do this." And she would get very angry with me. And I could never understand this. Why are you getting so angry? You gave me a problem. I gave you a solution. It's finished. Let's move on. Let's talk about something else. Let's finish watching the movie. But she was always so angry. And this happened on multiple occasions. And it took me a really long time to understand why she was so angry. She didn't want me to give her a solution. She wanted me to listen to her. And I could understand this logically. I could understand she wants me to ask questions. She wants me to empathize. She wants me to understand how difficult that boss is to work for. Got it. Understand it logically. But I never understood this emotionally until I went carnivore. And when you go carnivore, you want everyone to ask you questions about it. You want to tell everyone. You want to shout it from the rooftops. This is the most amazing thing you've ever discovered, and everyone needs to know about it. You can't remember feeling this good before. You haven't had this much energy since you were in high school. It feels like the gates have opened up in front of you and the future is yours. Anything's possible. It's amazing. It's like finding treasure at the end of a rainbow, and everyone needs to know about this. You see a guy walking past you on the street, scratching some eczema on the back of his neck. You want to run up to him and say, "Hey, mate, I've got the answer for you. Just eat a steak. Thank me later." So you've got a friend that comes around to visit you, hasn't seen you for like 6 months, 12 months, something like that. They knock at the door, you open it, "G'day, how you doing?" And they're like, "You look amazing. What did you do?" And you're like, "Been waiting for this." "I'm on the carnivore diet." And you wait for questions. And you want all the questions, all the active listening, all the emotional intelligence. Nothing. Instead, everyone's suddenly an expert on fiber, vitamin C, and the perils of scurvy. Taxi drivers, bank tellers, lollipop ladies, everyone. You take the car in for a yearly service, and the mechanic's like, "Oh, you're looking different to last time I saw you." So you chew his ear off for half an hour about carnivore, only to get a lecture over an oil change about how You're going to be constipated if you don't get enough fiber in your diet. All this is to say, I'm on the carnivore diet. And I fell into carnivore from keto. I was doing keto to try and reverse my prediabetes and also to control a drinking problem. And now that I was doing keto, I was incorporating a small amount of non-starchy veggies into every meal. And this was a big change for me because prior to this time on keto, my diet had been strictly 100% ultra processed. Well, I was eating eggs, so I was having scrambled eggs for breakfast, but outside of that, strictly ultra processed. And so now that I was incorporating these veggies into each meal, I discovered something. I realized that indeed, plants were trying to kill me. And these assassination attempts would take place on the regular soon after eating and involve draining all the liquid from my body very, very quickly. And after repeated murder attempts, I had to get a restraining order on the veggies, and keto became carnivore. And I've been carnivore now for coming up on 2.5 years, and the changes that have happened have been absolutely amazing, similar to what many people experience. Weight loss, more energy, better sleep, clearer skin, clearer thinking, less anxiety. It's been amazing, but the thing that just tops it all is the arthritis in my left knee just vanished. And this was such a big thing for me because the arthritis had become such a part of my day-to-day life. It was just like this exhausting cloud always over me. And I was walking a minimum of an hour a day from home to the train station to work and back again. And it was just exhausting. And I live in Japan. And in Japan, there are lots of stairs, and it's constantly up and down and up and down and up and down. And if there's anything a person with arthritis hates more than walking, it's climbing. And so it was just exhausting. So I'd be exhausted by the time I get to work, do a day's work, be exhausted from that, then get home and be exhausted from traveling home. And I'd just be in front of the TV or the computer like a zombie. And then for the arthritis to just vanish after 2 months, it was amazing. I went from this exhausted, lethargic walking to running around everywhere. Just amazing. But I don't want to spend this whole video talking about my results because everyone has this laundry list that just keeps growing as you discover more and more things that have changed for you. Instead, I want to defer to the experts. And I want to share what the experts say about the carnivore diet. Now, the Oxford Dictionary defines expert as a person with special knowledge, skills, or training in a particular area. Remember, special knowledge. Because in this video, I'm going to present feedback from almost 850 experts. These are experts that have spent their entire lives finding out what works and what does not work for the human body. And these experts are not hiding behind studies gathered from food surveys. They have real-world practical experience. No theory, no correlation, real-world practical experience. These people are the experts that I've interviewed over the last 2 years on my channel. So why do I call them experts? Because they have special knowledge, not just in the carnivore diet, but in diet generally. Because these people have spent their entire lives testing, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years testing what foods will help them maintain a healthy weight, what foods will help them feel better, what foods will help them deal with their chronic illnesses. 99.9% of the time, they hit a dead end. They came up short. They didn't have success. Even if they found something that made them feel better in the short term, it ended up not working. And then one day, all of these people have eventually reached the same conclusion. When I eat a carnivore-style diet, I can maintain a healthy weight or I can get closer to it. When I eat a carnivore-style diet, I feel better. When I eat a carnivore-style diet, I reverse my chronic illnesses, or I can manage them better. So I'd like to share some feedback from them. I looked over and realized I could see my daughter's face for the first time in 5 years. I reversed my type 2 diabetes. I have lost count of the number of people that have reversed their type 2 diabetes. And the pattern goes like this. When you go carnivore, you either reverse your type 2 diabetes or you begin to reverse it. For example, my A1C went from 6.0 to 5.0, and now I can't keep my socks up. My doctor checked my A1C to see how much medication to give me. He was shocked to see it had gone from 12.6 to 4.5. My fatty liver disease is gone. My stage 1 chronic kidney disease is gone. A lifetime of bladder control problems are gone. I lost 257 pounds in a year, and I'm living again. I no longer need a knee replacement, and my doctor thinks it's remarkable. I couldn't walk until I discovered carnivore. I've been able to put my wheelchair in storage. I was 300 pounds with type 2 diabetes, depression, GERD, and no off switch. Carnivore gave me back hope. My stage 4 cancer is controlled with carnivore, and it is reversing the damage done by chemo. My autistic meltdowns went away once I started carnivore. Fibromyalgia disappeared 2 days after starting carnivore. Carnivore turned my life around after years of addiction to meth. My brain lesion and MS symptoms disappeared. My doctor asked me to balance on one leg and hop, and that's when I realized my MS was gone. My COPD is better on carnivore. So many stories like these. Anyway, back to the story I started with. October 18, 1992 was a normal Sunday. I went to bed at 10:30 p.m. in preparation for work the next day. When I woke up the next morning, I had the hangover from hell. The kind of hangover where your head feels like a bowling ball and you just want to lie there and die. It was awful. What I didn't realize at the time is I'd been walking around for months, perhaps years, with a basilar artery aneurysm, a brain aneurysm. And while I'd been asleep, it had burst. And that hangover I was experiencing was stroke symptoms. Stroke symptoms that would get dramatically worse over the next 2 hours, so much so I would lose control of the right side of my body. So I found myself at a local doctor. By the time I got to the doctor, the right side of my face had stopped working, and I was talking out the left side of my mouth. The doctor did a thorough examination. He was looking in my eyes with the light, he was smacking my knees with a hammer, he was doing all the bits. And after his thorough examination, he announces, I likely have gastroenteritis. Now, even as a 17-year-old who had just had a stroke, I was pretty sure that what I was suffering from right now was not gastroenteritis. But given my communication style was grunting out of the left side of my face, I didn't debate. His recommendation was Panadol, fluids, and rest. Needless to say, we sought a second opinion. And after that second opinion, I was rushed to hospital and stabilized. I found myself a couple of months later in Royal Perth Hospital in Western Australia. After signing a consent to be a research subject form, I had experimental surgery, which occluded the aneurysm. This surgery is no longer experimental and it's in widespread use, saving lives. So, why am I telling you this story? Well, for the 30 odd years following the ruptured aneurysm and subsequent stroke, I have had a weaker right side. My arm is weaker, my reaction time is much slower, I have a weaker right leg, and I limp. And not long after starting carnivore, things started to improve. I was getting a little bit more strength back in my arm. My reaction time was a little bit better. And my limp was improving. And I was feeling like I had better balance. Now, my right side is always going to be weaker. But I wanted to show you this. The left side is pre-carnivore. The right side is 5 or 6 months into carnivore. Take a look at my right leg. I'd love to share your carnivore story on the channel. It doesn't have to be this amazing story like I lost 1,000,000 pounds in 3.5 minutes. It doesn't have to be like that. It might just be I went carnivore, I have more energy, and I feel better about myself. It could be anything. Shoot me an email to realzerocarb@gmail.com and we'll arrange a time that works for you. I'm looking forward to chatting with you. Cheers.